Merci, Catherine, et merci à tous. It's really great to be here at the Conference de Montréal. I'm sorry that I can't be in the room, but what a great panel we have for you today. C'est mon plaisir de vous présenter le panel concernant l'avenir vert dans le secteur de transportation. And what an incredible panel. I'll briefly introduce them, and then I'll also give you a couple of quick remarks. And my name again is Marc. I'm the Senior Assistant Deputy Minister of Strategy and Innovation Policy Sector at the Department of Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada. And unfortunately, because I'm not in the room, you can't see how good my sock game is, but let's just pretend that you can all see that I'm wearing good ones today. The panel we have for you today is really truly at the forefront of this issue, and you probably couldn't pick a better set of leaders to talk about the future of green transportation. I'm joined by Adrian Tylim, the head of business development for USA Americas for Blue Solutions. You've seen their bios. I'll just note in particular for Adrian that he's an engineer, a designer, a project and business leader, including work on the NASA Space Station solar power module, and is leading Blue Solutions in their work on solid-state energy storage solutions at a pretty revolutionary time. Also incredible to have Marissa West with us, President and Managing Director of GM Canada. Quite the engineering background and former Executive Chief Engineer for Global Midsize and Medium Duty Truck program at GM, but has also launched multiple models, including the SUV and large truck investment of over $1.6 billion at GM. And so an incredible pleasure to have Marissa with us. And finally, certainly not least, is Marc Bédard, le président et le fondeur de Lyon Electric, formerly in a number of industries, including les entreprises Barrette Limitées, and a graduate of a local institution of pretty reasonable remark, HEC. And obviously at the forefront of driving the electric transition of this industry. So very quickly, friends, it's just worth setting this conversation by noting, that, the world is really changing rapidly, and like all countries, Canada needs to adapt. And in some ways, the conference today is at the forefront of the nexus of two very historic challenges that we're facing. The first is obviously our need to achieve net zero emissions by 2050. A challenge for which the government is full front and critical to averting, the worst impacts of climate change. In just the last while, we've seen, the heat waves, the wildfires, the flooding, the coastal erosion, and the other disasters that are having a major impact on our communities, and that will get worse if we don't act. We are amongst the highest per capita emitters in the world, and our average temperatures here in Canada are rising at twice the global average and 3 times that in the north. And we need to then lay that against the backdrop, though, of the need to diversify our economy and restructure our critical supply chains. This pandemic and the illegal occupation and war in Ukraine have shown us how vulnerable we are to disruptions in our supply chains, and inflation is obviously alarmingly elevated. In Canada, in May, we hit 7.7% inflation, an almost 40-year high. And with Russia and Ukraine as major suppliers of key commodities, we're obviously once again revisiting the resilience and durability of those. But notwithstanding these historic challenges, this is also an area of extraordinary opportunity. And you have 3 people on this stage who have seen that opportunity and are seizing it. By leveraging our country's unique advantages, we can not only meet them, but we can capitalize on generational economic opportunity. Investors are mobilizing to this opportunity. Bloomberg NEF tallied global investment in the low-carbon energy transition at $755 billion last year, up 27% from $595 billion in 2020. And growth in Canada's clean tech sector is extraordinarily strong and expanding. According to a recent clean energy report, by 2030, Canada's clean energy sector is forecast to grow by 58% as a share of GDP, and clean tech jobs are projected to grow almost 50%. Not only that, and if those of you who had the chance to hear my minister earlier, he probably may have mentioned that Canada is actually at the forefront of opportunity in this particular zone. Canada produces 21 critical minerals with a global value estimated at $880 billion. And that includes nickel, lithium, cobalt, graphite, copper, rare earth elements, vanadium, tellurium, gallium, scandium, titanium, magnesium, zinc, platinum group metals, and uranium. So we very much have something to offer and something that the world is looking for. But being a leader in this space will not be easy and will require major partnerships with industry. And that's where you can see our investments in Budget 2021 and in Budget 2022 that really are at the forefront of this, including the obviously signature $3.8 billion in a critical mineral strategy, but also some investments in some of the very companies you see on represented on the stage. So with that probably overly long setup, I want to turn to my panelists and ask them as an opener, can you comment briefly on this transformational moment for innovation and climate in Canada, but also in your industry that we find ourselves in the battery ecosystem, and tell me a little bit about what your thoughts are on it. And because I can see you closest, why don't we start with you, Marissa?
Yeah, thank you, Marc, and great introduction there. I don't have to tell this crowd how critical the climate change situation is. And at General Motors, our biggest opportunity for influence is in tailpipe emissions. So we've really taken a bold leadership position in our statements about becoming an all-electric vehicle company. We intend to do that. We will have our entire light-duty fleet transition to all-electric by 2035. We'll be carbon neutral by 2040. And to get there, we have to work quickly and we have to work now. And we've been investing really for years, actually, in transforming our entire portfolio over to EVs. And I'll tell you, we'll have capacity for 1 million electric vehicles in North America by 2025. That's going to require a similar level of capacity for our Ultium batteries, which lends itself nicely to the opportunity that we see here in Canada. We have every critical mineral available to us that we need in the Ultium battery in Canada. What we need to develop is the processing capability. That's a critical skill. And it's a strategic reason that we are joining forces with POSCO Chemical for a cathode active material plant right here in Quebec in Bécancour as one of the first steps in really developing what we see as a critical strategic play to develop that complete battery ecosystem within North America for a lot of the reasons that have already been discussed at the variety of panels at this conference. And so it's a huge opportunity, but it's not going to happen without partnership with government and with industry. And I'll tell you, we will have those 1 million vehicles in 2025. We'll establish that capacity, but we need to have customer adoption as well. And that's what's going to be critical to really make the successful transition to the EV future. And what's important is to take away the friction points for consumer adoption of EVs. I just saw another survey today that indicates the number one reason for resistance to adopt an electric vehicle remains proximity for public charging infrastructure. And so that's something that we're going to really have to get serious about through the next decade as this transition takes place. So we can create the battery ecosystem, and we need to do that. That's an important opportunity. We also need to resolve any resistance for customer adoption, and that's have the grid that is robust, the charging infrastructure, and also address the affordability of EVs, because our EV to internal combustion engine propulsion cost parity is not yet before us. So that's part of the evolution as well.
Thanks so much, Marissa. And I think that's an important set of points, and also a huge congratulations on the investment in Bécancour. And maybe turning to the middle, I see Adrian there. Why don't you give us your same response? Talk about this moment of transformation.
Yeah, thank you. It's good to be here. Thanks for the opportunity. And you laid out, I think, the conversation very thoughtfully and very carefully. And I agree with everything you said so far. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Blue Solutions, but we are really a product of what we're talking about here. Investment in Canada, in this case in Quebec. And we became the only company to be able to commercialize what people think is the next generation of battery technology, solid-state battery. So we're only focused on making solid-state batteries. We've been at it for a long time. I'll tell you more about it in a few minutes. And our product today is exported to Europe. It has been deployed in commercial applications, even passenger vehicles for a long, long time. So we have a great reliance in the capabilities of the Canadian ecosystem, and we're betting not only on the workforce development that we're going to be talking about, but also on the supply chain development. That is something that is very much needed for us, all of us, to be successful. So we definitely we have a long-term vision in terms of what the opportunities are, what the resources are, and we believe that to be successful, we all have to work together. So the collaboration between Canadian companies is extremely, I would say, useful to be able to lower the cost of the vehicle, so there is a greater adoption. By the same token, with the great adoption, we have more investment in material resources and so forth. So we're very hopeful, and we're very thankful, actually, for all the support we have received so far.
Thanks so much, Adrian. And finally, over to you, Marc, to talk a little bit about how you're seeing this moment and this transformation.
Yeah, thank you very much, Marc. You were talking about your socks earlier. I just realized that mine are pretty boring. So I didn't know exactly what was the setup on the stage, but that's probably the only thing boring at Lion, though. So yeah, maybe, Adrian, I'll do the same thing you just did. Maybe give you a few comments on Lion. Some of you probably don't know Lion as much as you know GM, as an example. So Lion, I mean, I started Lion in 2008. And in 2010, we've decided that everything we will be doing will be electric. And back then, we've decided that it's going to be 100% electric. First of all, I mean, no hybrids. And this is the only technology we will be doing as well. So we started by doing, at the beginning, I mean, we were selling a few diesel buses to pay the bills on a monthly basis, as they were saying, but all the R&D was really on electric. Karen, you probably remember that. Many years ago, we had all those discussions about, the LFP batteries and the NMC batteries and the technology, and, we've had, passionate discussion. So that was great. So 2010, decided that everything we're doing, will be electric. We've invested for so many years. In 2016, we started selling the first all-electric school buses. Most of the people thought it will not be possible to do that. You probably remember in 2010, I mean, I think there was the Nissan Leaf that was launched, I think probably in 2010, 2012, the Tesla Model S that was launched as well. So when we were telling everyone that this is, what we will be doing, some people were thinking we were maybe crazy, and maybe we were. But we felt, that was probably a good timing to start working on this. So anyway, the fact that we started working so early on electric is making us, what we are today. 2016, we started selling the electric school buses. Today, we are the leader in North America with electric school buses. And we started working on electric trucks in 2015, and we started selling them just last year. So every time we're doing something like this, it takes about 5-6 years. Why? Because it's purpose-built for electric. We don't do retrofit as well. So I was talking earlier about the fact it's always 100% electric, but it's also purpose-built for electric. So we're building and we're developing those models from the ground up to be electric, always having the drivers in mind, the operators in mind, the mechanics in mind as well. So the good thing is that we're fully focused on electric, and we started building the ecosystem as well. So a lot of people are saying, hey, Marc, I mean, we had enough of hearing you speak about the ecosystem, but to me, the ecosystem is the key. So not only with respect to supply chain, with everything we will be talking today, but also making sure that the customer that want to go electric, well, it's going to be a smooth transition for that customer to go electric. So in order to do that, you need to deal with people that are very specialized in what they're doing. And this is one thing we've decided to do. I mean, Lion Energy is basically taking care of the charging infrastructure. We're also looking at the specs. We have a modular approach to the number of kilowatt hour you can put on your vehicle as well. So depending on the range that you need and what kind of operations you need as well. So, I mean, so many years passed by, I mean, in the last 12 years, but very, very excited to be here with you today and to tell you a little bit more about what we're doing and what we think as well we should be doing in Canada to be the leader.
those are hugely helpful kind of openings, I think, to getting into the meat of the conversation. I want to pick up on two aspects of that with the next couple of questions, and I'll kind of preview the second before I get to the first. So the second, I think we can pick up that point about the role of Canada, Mac, and where Canada fits into this. But maybe, it's actually inspiring and also a little awesome to hear all three of you talk about being all in on electric and all in on the battery transformation. So maybe if I can ask you each to comment again on, what role you think this battery transformation is actually going to play in meeting our climate change goals, and a little bit about how you see this transformation playing out, because it's not small. It is very significant, and it's across multiple verticals and multiple sectors and multiple segments. And so, just interested in hearing a bit more from you about how you see this playing out, and a little bit about your bullishness on this as being part of your overall climate strategy. We can go in the same order. Sorry, Marissa.
Okay. Yeah, I think I already started to touch on it, but the vehicles are going to be very capable. They're going to suit the needs of the customer, and 80 to 90% of the charging needs are going to be available at home or at work. However, we're going to need to have the infrastructure across the entire country to take away any of that range anxiety that may exist. And so I think that's still one of the transitions that we need to tackle. This transformation isn't going to happen without a lot of effort and a lot of collaboration, as my colleagues here have said. I think the affordability aspect of the battery propulsion is not a small problem either, of course. And so helping our Canadian customers to incentivize them in a time where gas prices are rising, this is an opportunity to compel them to purchase electric vehicles. And I think it's going to be great that over the next couple of years, I truly believe they're going to be plentiful. The vehicle that is attractive and capable and desirable for them is going to be attainable. It's going to be on the lot, but are they going to be able to afford it? And so that's going to be critical, is the affordability of the electric vehicle and the transition to an all-electric future. And then again, just the grid, making sure that we have a robust grid to support that, because I've heard some anecdotal stories where an individual had to choose between running his oven and charging his Tesla, and that's not a decision we want our customers to have to make, but it's a very real issue that we have to acknowledge. We can't just shove it under the rug. So we need the right ratio of chargers to electric vehicles, which is going to be a journey. We need to continue to evolve the technology. So it's battery chemistry technology, and it's also, by the way, software technology. So at GM, we have over 1,200 engineers now at our Canadian technical centers working on software, and that's both with active safety driving technologies, that's with battery and energy management, and some of that is working with joint ventures to find the startups and the gems that are among us, because we have a great hotbed of talent in Canada that we can leverage to continue to innovate. So I think that's what the future looks like, not without a steep climb, but it's certainly within reach.
So from a battery...
Go ahead, Adrian.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
From a battery point of view, we are solely focused on solid-state batteries. That has to do with the history of the group, the company. We'll get into that a little bit later. The way we see it, and the way that I believe the industry thinks of it, is lithium-ion technology, which is they are the batteries that are currently being used, will plateau in terms of performance at some point in time, maybe in 5, 6, 10 years. As a result of that, different chemistries, different cell designs are needed to be able to withstand the higher demands and also to be able to reduce the cost. So we see that that's where we're fitting. Our technology today is our third generation. We've learned a great deal. Our products are deployed, they're robust, they're deployed all over the world. And right now we're focusing on collaborating with industry leaders. We're talking about OEMs, we're talking about large battery technology companies that are helping us to develop this next generation, we call it the fourth generation of solid-state battery technology, which will allow to achieve the higher performance, reduce the cost, so that with a smaller battery you have a longer range. the battery, as you alluded to, is a significant contributor to the cost of the vehicle. So in the case of an electric bus, I believe it's in the order of 30 to 60% of the, depending on the type of bus. And if you're able now to reduce that battery capacity, then that cost will become much more affordable. And then, obviously the availability of the product, the acquisition of the product as well. So we think that that's from a battery technology, that's where we're going. And we're changing our business model, whereas before we were the only ones involved with the whole manufacturing process, because we sort of like developed the commercialization of the solid-state battery technology. We see today that with the investment in gigafactories, our next generation will have to accomplish the fact that it'll have to be inserted, if you will, into the capabilities of these gigafactories. So that's our goal, and that's where we're going with this design.
Over to you, Marc.
Yeah, thank you, Marc. And battery is key. You're right. I mean, it amounts to about 30 to 40% of the total cost of the vehicle right now in medium duty and heavy duty. So that's very significant. That's one of the reasons we're doing what we're doing now. We're building a battery factory as we speak. We will be opening this factory within the next 6 months. That's in Mirabel. So very close to here, 5 gigawatt hour per year. So basically what we're doing, we're buying the cells and we're building everything else around it. So we're building the battery pack. And why are we doing this? Because we feel, that controlling the technology of the battery is key. But not to the point that, like Blue Solutions is doing, because you guys are doing the cell, but, we are buying from cell OEMs, but we're mastering like, the BMS, the BTMS, everything else around it. So the cooling system, the heating system, the form factor as well. And the number of kilowatt hour you put on your trucks and your buses is key to the success of your operation. So this is key. That being said though, Marc, I mean, one thing, every time we're talking about electric, we're talking like, it's almost like talking in the future. And we are hearing like, 2035, some of the goals. And I think, it's a very good start to have a goal where we want to make sure most of transportation will be electrified, by then. My personal point of view on this is that it's way too late. I think 2035 is way too late. And the people are, let's say, afraid of change. And so at some point we need regulation for that change. I mean, change will not happen by itself, right? So it happens at some point because these people, they recognize the value of driving an electric car, driving an electric bus, driving an electric truck as well. But, we need to make sure that this change could happen. And this change could go faster than 2035. In fact, I think it could be 2030 or even before that. And also it will not happen, all of a sudden. So we need goals that are staggered throughout this period of time. So we can not only say like in 2035, the goal is to electrify, the transportation. I mean, we need goals. We need goals on an annual basis because since people are afraid of change, a lot of people will be waiting until, the last minute to do that. So in one good way, I'm just stating a few examples. I mean, a lot of you know ACT, the Advanced Clean Truck Rules. And, that's one great thing that has been done. And right now, in 6 states in the United States, ACT has been put in place. And we're talking about California, Oregon, Washington, New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts as well. And many other states are looking into this. And I think in Canada, we need exactly the same thing. We need the ACT of Canada that could be, custom to the Canadian market, but we need that. And one good example is that in 2024, at least 9% of the medium duty and heavy duty trucks and buses will need to be electric under that rule. And I think that's the key to do that. And I think it's key, for companies like our companies right now, because we're investing a lot of money into what we're doing, to also at some point make sure that, those investments we will be able to commercialize those trucks, those buses, those cars as well. Marissa, you were saying at the beginning, we need customers. And yeah, exactly. So we need customers, we need operators that are going to go electric. And I think, something like ACT is one good way to go.
Yeah. If I could respond, I think the biggest concern there is that we put in place ZEV mandates without the infrastructure to support the customer, and that would be a failure. So when we are confident that we have the grid, we have the energy distribution, and we have the charging infrastructure, then I think the adoption will happen. We're seeing willingness among customers to consider the electric vehicles, and it's not a mandate on the number of cars that we need to sell electric. I think it's a journey that we have to support the customer along the way, and the most important thing we can do to support them is give them the confidence that when they purchase the electric vehicle, the rest of the infrastructure is going to support that purchase. And we're not there yet. So I think it would be premature to put ZEV mandates in place when we don't have the infrastructure to support.
Thanks, Marissa. And I definitely am hearing the notion that there's actually, there's the ecosystem around the battery, and then there's the ecosystem around the market, and ensuring that we've actually thought through that full ecosystem. And the government of Canada doesn't like this conference just because we say nice things about Canada, but I am now going to ask the question.
You need to repeat the question. You froze for a few seconds.
Oh, okay. I think I froze.
Sorry.
And of course, I froze just as I was talking about the government wanting you to say nice things about the country.
You're safe. You're safe.
Each of you. There we go. Each of you has made really substantive investments in this country and in this market. And so maybe you can comment a little bit about what factored into your company to see your.
Yeah.
There we go. I froze again. Why Canada is part of your solution? Why don't we start the other way around and start with you, Mac, and then we can go across.
Yeah, thank you, Marc. Well, for us, it was kind of natural. To start. Where we started working in R&D to start with, and we felt that the Quebec market is a very good market to start with, not only because of the grid. The grid in Quebec is very strong, as you know, and it's looking to grow, right? And also because of the way we produce our energy, right? Since it's over 99% renewable green energy, there's probably no better place than in Quebec to do that. So I think the Quebec market is a very good one. I think the Canadian market is a great one as well. Hey, Marc, I need to tell you, what the Minister of Transportation announced yesterday. It is a great announcement. This is something all of us, I think we've been waiting for. They called it, the incentive for medium and heavy duty zero-emission vehicle, something like IMHZEV. And I think it's great. It's $550 million over the next 4 years. And basically, that's a major incentive for the operators. And not only that, it's stackable with the provincial grants as well. So I think that's the kind of thing, that need to be done to be successful. And this is exactly what, the government has been doing. So I think it's great. I think since day one also, if you're looking at the investments that most of the companies are doing, either, on the electric vehicle side or, the battery side as well, the governments have been very supportive of this. So I think, as I was saying earlier, I think, we can go faster. One way to go faster is to establish ourselves and do exactly what we're doing now, with respect to the batteries, but also with respect to the manufacturing capacity. So what you guys are doing now with, probably regulation to come, but subsidies that you guys are putting in place, I think is a great way to do it.
Thanks, Marc. Adrian?
Yeah, so I would like to put a pin on the subsidies and the government support. I think it's a very interesting topic, but and definitely I have quite something to say. Why are we investing in Quebec? So a little bit of history. Blue Solutions is owned by a large family-owned French group. that specialize in ultra-thin films manufacturing and plastic extrusion techniques. And as they were developing a solution for batteries, they came across Hydro-Quebec's intellectual property in solid-state battery that was developed with the leadership of Karine Zagiv, present here. And we acquired the intellectual property, and we manufactured and created the first commercially available solid-state battery that has been deployed, as I mentioned, in electric vehicles all over the world. We see a lot of potential here. Obviously, we have, in terms of the intellectual capacity, we have green energy, we have the resources, so the leadership of our company saw a very opportune time not only to invest, but to continue to develop this technology. So here we have an ecosystem that is incredibly helpful and useful, that is helping us not only commercialize this in all over the world, but also in a collaboration with our French R&D center. We have an R&D center in France, another one here in Boucherville. It allows us to move a little bit faster. So overall, we think that in terms of the expertise in battery technology, this is one of the best places to be.
Yeah, I think I'll add to that, and maybe it's a bit redundant, but particularly with our POSCO announcement and locating in Bécancour, it was, of course, collaboration with the government, the ISED and Innovations or Invest Quebec, but also the talent that's in the area is a huge enabler for innovation. The proximity to the raw materials, but also the proximity to distribute across the US and Canada as we roll out more of our Ultium battery plants. And of course, the clean energy, as was mentioned, which is absolutely in line with, the carbon neutral goals of the company. And then I would just add that kind of to Marc's point about the announcement yesterday for the medium duty and heavy duty incentives, that was great. And I can't wait to add our BrightDrop electric delivery van to that list of applicable vehicles, which we're building at our Ingersoll, Ontario plant. So my third day on the job in this role, I was joined by some of our ministers and great supporters across the government and as well at GM as we made the announcement about our investment in that plant. And we're really excited. We'll be building the first full-scale electric vehicle plant here in Canada starting this year. By the end of this year, those delivery vans will be rolling off the lines. So, it's been really great collaboration with industry and with the support of the government that's allowed GM to make those investments.
Thanks so much, Marissa, and thanks to all of you for those important investments. I'm interested in a little bit of the fact that this is still an innovating space and it's still continuing to evolve. And many of you have actually spoken to the fact that this isn't now a one-time shift that's just going to stay static. It'll actually need to continue to evolve with new technologies. Are there innovations and innovative best practices, including on the business model side, that Canada should be mindful of, or that you're watching for as we sort of look to seize this opportunity and chart the path forward? And maybe I'll turn to you first, Adrian, and then we can circle around.
I was going to ask if I could go second, though, but I'll take it. In terms of innovation, and the investments and the business models, I think that one of the things that I've seen that works, we talk about the subsidies and so forth as a way to encourage, the deployment and the growth in the market. There are a few opportunities here, I think, that are kind of interesting. And I think it would be a great example for the government to be able to nudge Canadian companies to work together so that this could be, I would say, modeled and even replicated in other parts. One of them is the Canada Post. And they announced the electrification of the fleet. This is going to take a little bit of time. I think that to the extent that those vehicles could be developed with as high of a Canadian content as possible, it'd be fantastic. I know there are trade issues and so forth, but as a reference, and I'm based in California, so you understand, I'm being critical of my own country. The USPS, the Postal Service in the United States, they had a similar type of endeavor, and it's become extremely politicized and not well constructed in order to accelerate the deployment of these vehicles. I think that the content, the Canadian content, and all that can be surmounted with the right policies. I think that they're extremely important to have, and these subsidies are extremely important. Something that I haven't seen with regards to the subsidies and the announcement of yesterday is I think that there is a gap, a hole that is being left out of these subsidies that would be extremely important for the growth of the industry, not only in passenger or commercial vehicles, but in other specialty vehicles that I don't think they're looked at. So I'll give you a couple of examples. The first one is a Quebec company that is developing heavy equipment for snow blowing over airports. These are large, I call them trucks, large vehicles actually, that on the diesel side today, they're idle for a long time, they're creating a lot of pollution, and obviously the airports need to reduce their environmental footprint, and electrifying them would be a great way to do it. So, for example, the airport of Montreal could be helping small companies that don't have any visibility to pilot a project like that, give some kind of a window, and be able to also demonstrate that we can do other than passenger cars and trucks and buses. Another example is in Manitoba. There is a company that is involved in tourism and has very large vehicles to take the tourists to, I would say, to explore. And what they're doing is they are trying to convert this diesel equipment to electric equipment. And those two applications have been left outside, perhaps like the van as well, of these incentives. So I think that that is a very important aspect that has been overlooked.
Yeah. And from our perspective within the Canadian automotive industry, I think the reason an industry that's a tenth of the size of the US has been able to flourish here in Canada is the integration we've had with the entire North American auto industry really since 1960. So I think as we transform to the electric vehicle future, it's going to be very important to stay very closely aligned with the US. And as we develop this battery ecosystem and the supply chain within Canada, to have transparency across the borders and that close integration will allow Canada really to take full advantage of this opportunity, but also to achieve the scale that's going to be required to bring down the costs and to get to a mass EV adoption. And again, I said we're going to have 1 million vehicles in North America by 2025, and that's just going to continue to ramp up until we completely, eliminate the light duty vehicles with tailpipe emissions by 2035. So I think Canada and the U.S. are in this together.
Yeah, Marc. To me, innovation works with manufacturing. I mean, it's obvious to me that, if we want to start doing a lot of innovation, and I think we've been doing a lot in the past, we need to control our manufacturing as well. Back to, obviously, the title of the theme of, what we're talking about today. If we're not manufacturing and we're sending manufacturing, in Asia or elsewhere, I think we're losing a lot of knowledge, a lot of IP as well, by the way. And I think, this is when you manufacture. So you develop the product, but also when you manufacture, that you are able to go to the further stage. And so I think it's key. I think it's key that, we manufacture. And manufacture is at the basis of, almost everything, like, education as well. I mean, when you start manufacturing, you need engineers. You need people that will be working, in your factory as well. So we hire a lot of people from the local universities, but from universities all over North America and Europe as well, and even in Asia. So we need that. So instead of sending our talent elsewhere or overseas, it's the only way around. I mean, the people are coming to us. You see the same thing with GM, where GM is manufacturing. A lot of engineers are going there because they want to work for GM. You see the same thing for Tesla as well. So that's exactly what we're doing. And this is what we think is the right way to do that. So now, we've been talking, and Adrian, to your point, I think earlier, I've been talking in the past about the Buy Canada Act as well. And one of the reasons I'm bringing that up is that, when we're selling on the US side, you do have the Buy America Act. And the Buy America Act, protects local job. And I've been saying, I've been always saying that you need to manufacture in the country that you're selling your product. And I think that's exactly what we're doing. We are opening a 900,000 square foot factory in Illinois as we speak right now, and we will be hiring thousands of people because we want to get closer to our customer base. And a lot of our customer base is in the US. So it's not only to comply with the Buy America Act, but it's also because we want to be local for a lot of reasons, obviously. And I think it's exactly the same thing that should be done on the Canadian side as well. So we do have a great factory right now, and we want to grow that factory. We want to have a factory in Canada that will be much bigger in the next few years, and we want to hire a lot of people. And in order to do that, we also need the local ecosystem with the whole supply chain to be very close to where you are manufacturing the goods. And in order to do that, you need a Buy Canada Act, as we have a Buy America Act on the US side.
No shortage of important opinions and some really good suggestions for consideration. I'm wondering if I can take that and maybe flip it and ask a little bit about what you see as the risks for Canada in this space. So obviously, it's a good day. It feels like, notwithstanding the rain, that Canada's emerging as a key player, that there's good collaboration going on in the space between industry and consumers and innovators and governments to be able to establish Canada as at the forefront of a green transportation revolution and at the forefront of a battery ecosystem on the supply chain side. But what are the key risks that you're seeing? And we've talked about a few, but what would those be? And what are some ways in which you think the overall market share and the ecosystem needs to mitigate those? And I don't know who wants to start.
I can start with that one. I think one of the risks is if we diverge in regulation away too much from the US and make it more difficult to do business in Canada. I think that would be a risk. Secondly, I've already talked about regulation outpacing the infrastructure that can support the EV transition. So those are really, I would say, the two things that keep me up at night. From a talent pipeline, I don't see it as a huge risk, but it's certainly an area we have to continue to invest. There's a lot of companies that are fighting for talent in Canada and in the US, and I think that Canada already has really great immigration-friendly policy and attracting a lot of diverse talent from all over the world. And I think we need to continue to invest in that, and that's helpful from an IP standpoint. It's helpful to, it is why we have a Canadian Technical Center here, because we saw the number of engineers that were being graduated with artificial intelligence and machine learning and software capability, and that hotbed of talent was very attractive and will continue to be very attractive, but we need to continue to make sure that we're fostering that. So more of an opportunity or just a keep top of mind than something I'm worried about, but those are kind of the three elements: is outpacing a regulation, outpacing the support infrastructure, the not keeping up with the pace of talent and attracting that talent to this industry, and otherwise Canada's in a great place right now. Actually, that's the good news.
Would you like to go next, Marc?
Thank you, Adrian. I can do that. To me, the biggest risk is the lack of speed. Lack of speed of going to adapting EV. If we're not doing this in Canada on a very short-term basis, somebody else will. And when you do that, I was saying it earlier, manufacturing will follow where you sell. And if other countries are faster than Canada, then guess what? Manufacturing is going to be on the in those other countries, and with everything else that follows, the whole ecosystem, including the people. and the talent. So lack of speed to me is a major risk. And not only that, I think, in Canada right now, we're doing fine. Honestly, I think we can do better. I think we can be a little bit, I think we can be faster also, but we're still in the race. So we're still in the race, but we need to react pretty quickly. Also, when we're talking about the people and keeping our people, what's great about EV is, well, obviously you saw that, with the labor shortage. But if you speak to anybody like between 20 and 30 and 35, and right now, a lot of the older people as well, the first item on the list when you're taking a new job or you're looking for a job is not the paycheck. So that's going to be number 2 or number 3 or even number 4. But the first thing is going to be, am I going to work for a company that share my values? I think that's number 1. And this is what we are hearing all the time. People want to work for companies, that share their values. Good thing about EV is that, most of the EV companies share the same values as, a lot of the younger people. So they want to work for the EV companies. They want to be in that circle. They want to make sure the ESG mission is up to the expectations as well. So many people are coming to Lion right now, or they're looking to come to Lion, and they are asking, what's your ESG mission? And what's the timing of that? And and they're talking about the board, and they're talking about where we're going, and they're talking about our own greenhouse gas emissions. So even if part of our mission is to make sure that we will be saving a lot of GHG emissions for our customers, they are asking about what we are doing internally at Lion. I think this is key. And by the way, we're taking track. We're keeping track. Of all of that, and we do that. So I think that's the only way to go. So you want to keep your people, you need to work on your ESG mission, you need to work on your greenhouse gas emissions as well, but not only on the E side, also on the S side and the G side. So the S side about social is key. And to me, it all starts with where you develop the product, where you manufacture those products, and how you educate your people.
So we have 2 points of view. Too fast, too slow. Let's vote.
Too slow.
No.
Too fast.
No. So you asked about the risk. I think that labor is one aspect of it, and I'll touch on that. But I think in terms of the risk, I'm in line with you in terms of the sustained policy and incentives that need to be developed, because this cannot be a 4-year plan or a 5-year plan. It has to be something, so like an endless, if you will, horizon, to the extent that we can incentivize the consumers to buy the vehicles, also to develop the grid at the same time. I don't think that one is exclusive of the other, and I do agree that they need to be developed at the same time. Charging infrastructure is huge. Charging infrastructure happen to need batteries, like the ones that we produce. But the reality is a need, and the more. So one of the maybe we'll discuss a business model, but I was thinking in terms of policy. I'm thinking of what Germany did 20 years ago, and in trying to develop what they call the energy transition, Energiewende, I think it's in German. And what they did is they incentivized the residential owners to put a solar panels on the rooftop, and they gave them a premium for the energy that they generated that they sold to the utilities. So similarly here, we could potentially do the same thing, where energy produced to charge a vehicle, the vehicle is available, the energy of the vehicle is available for the grid, etc., provide a premium. I think that those kind of incentives can provide sort of like a kick for the infrastructure, as well as for the development of more cars, construction of more cars. On the side of the labor, I agree with you, Marc, in that these young engineers and even older engineers are more concerned about the environment, the ESG, and I think that we're seeing, for example, that we're not able to capture the talent that we needed as much as we would like to. So, for example, Professor Jeff Dan, he has a lithium-ion battery lab that is renowned, and that we're able to capture those graduates who go to California. Why? Because it not only is a green job that they have, but also it's a better paid job. So we need to support that ecosystem to help the corporations be able to hire, train, retain talent. Otherwise, we're going to have this brain drain that is very much undesired, and it just sort of like it backfires.
Thank you so much to all three of you. And it's kind of mind-blowing, but looks like we are actually coming up on time. And but I do want to thank you, all of you, for the extraordinary contributions. I hope it's clear to the audience. It's very clear to me. I feel like we really are watching a transformational and generational opportunity. I felt that when we, as the government, were able to make some of the investments in some of these firms, that we really were securing a next-gen technology that's actually going to play its way out over the course of many decades. But it is going to take a significant amount of continued investment and partnership. And I think we're hearing today a lot about the need to continue to secure that on the consumer side, on the industry side, and on the government side. To create that ecosystem, and I really hope that all of you feel like I do, that you're really watching a moment that we'll be able to look back on and think, wow, this was a transformational moment, and perhaps something that we can continue to build on. So a huge thanks to the three panelists. Un grand merci à la Conférence de Montréal, and I look forward to continuing the conversation and to the green transformation that's underway. So merci à tous. Thanks so much.
Yeah.